Hello and welcome to my first ever Q&A video. In last week's video we did a 1000 subscriber update, and in that video I asked you to send in some questions for me to answer in this week's video. Now, I wasn't expecting to get anywhere near the amount of responses that I got, so thank you to anybody that commented and asked questions, because honestly I wasn't expecting that huge of a response at all. So yeah, we've actually got quite a lot to go through here. So the way that this is going to work is I'm just going to read through the comments in alphabetical order, according to the usernames of the people that sent in questions. So yeah, I guess without further ado, we might as well get straight into it. So the first question is from Acidonia 150 Reborn, who asks, what game or game series do you like that everyone hates or you think is unfairly hated on? So this is quite a complicated question. Well, it's not a complicated question, but my answer's going to be complicated, because I can't really think of a game series that I like that's hated on. So my answer to this is kind of going to be the Metal Gear Solid series, but not because that series is hated by any means, but just because there's a small subset of people out there that kind of say that the games are a little bit silly for having such long cutscenes. But I actually really like that about the Metal Gear Solid series. It's kind of like the only game series that like fully commits to such long cutscenes and just like rolls with it completely and like kind of doesn't care about what people think. Like Metal Gear Solid 4, I think there's something like a 2-hour long cutscene at the end. It's just like, what other game series would have a 2-hour long cutscene? Like, if any other game series was to do that, it would be like absolute like suicide for the game. But with Metal Gear Solid, just because it's so well renowned, it completely gets away with it in my opinion. But yeah, that's not exactly a proper answer to your question, but I just can't think of a game series that's hated on that I like. Like obviously there's the classic stuff like Bubsy, but I also hate Bubsy. So yeah, I guess I'll go with Metal Gear Solid, even though that doesn't really make sense. The next question is from Agamas, who asks, what was the first game that I remember playing? This is quite an easy one because I quite vividly remember playing my first ever video game actually, and I think I've got some like home video footage of me first like playing the original PlayStation as well. I would show that on the screen now, but it's on tapes and I don't have the technology required to actually get the footage off of those tapes. I've been trying to do that for a while, so if I do ever manage to do that, there's a possibility of making a video about like my early experiences with games consoles, I suppose. But yeah, we'll see if that ever happens. I don't even know if the footage on those tapes is even usable anymore. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The first game that I remember playing is the original Rayman. That was the first game that I ever played when I first got the original PlayStation. And to this day, it remains one of my favourite games ever made. It's incredibly flawed, and it's kind of difficult to recommend to people that aren't like into really difficult games just because of how hard it is. But the graphics and the music and just the general gameplay, the controls, everything about it is amazing. It's just a little bit difficult to recommend unless you're up for a challenge, I guess. By the way, I am sorry if I mispronounce any of your usernames. Like, a lot of people that sent in questions are really regular commenters and viewers on the channel, but I've never actually said any of your usernames out loud. So yeah, apologies in advance because I'm definitely going to mispronounce at least one of these. So Bendors says, how long does it take to finish a game and then write the script and finally make a video about the game combined? So really this really does depend on the video. I've got into a really good rhythm with my reviews and I've gotten really efficient at making them now. If there's like no big skits involved or anything like that, I can actually sometimes fully finish a game from like initially playing it and recording the footage to having finished edited it in 3 days. Now that is like, it's kind of rare that I do it that fast, So more realistically, if I'm taking my time with a video, it'll be closer to like 5 days. But yeah, I think my turnaround is actually pretty fast considering the scale of some of the videos that I make. But like I say, I've been doing it for quite a while now, so I've gotten pretty efficient at it. So like most of the time I'll spend like 1 day just playing through the game. That is if it's a short game that's actually completable in one sitting. Like obviously there are games out there that would take longer to complete than that, so then that would make the video process longer by default. But let's just say it's a game that I've already played a million times and I know exactly what I'm doing. I'll finish that in one sitting and be writing notes about it. Then the next day I'll probably write the script fully. The day after that I'll record and edit the voiceover. The day after that I'll edit all of the gameplay. And then the day after that, which I think is the 5th day, I would do the filming and get it fully edited, like just fine tune everything. And yeah, then export it and upload it to YouTube. The next question is from Corey Williams, who says, I know you're not big on RPGs, but is there one or a series that I do like? Yeah, there is actually a couple of RPGs that I like. So one series that I was really big into at one point, back when I was a bit younger, is the Pokemon series. I played the first and second gens of those games a lot. But more recently I've kind of like gone off of the Pokemon series. I just feel like it keeps repeating the same formula and it's getting really stale at this point. Yeah, other than that, my favourite RPG ever made is Breath of Fire 3. Still to this day, I think that that's probably the best RPG I've ever played. It's on the PS1 and it was also like remastered on the PSP. And it's just amazing. Like, seriously, the graphics, the story, just everything going on with it is really, really good. And I'm saying that as somebody that's not really normally a fan of that type of game. So for me to be saying that, it's got to be pretty good. The next question is from Greg Cubed, who is actually the host of a Super Monkey Ball podcast that I'm sort of like a reoccurring guest on. I'm not in every single episode, but I have done 2 or 3 of them at this point. So yeah, if you're interested in that, a podcast entirely devoted to Super Monkey Ball, then I'll put a link below to it in the description, and you can check it out, listen to us ramble about the Super Monkey Ball series, and maybe introduce you to some other really good smaller YouTubers as well. I think some of you might like it if you're into Super Monkey Ball. But anyway, the question from Greg Cubed is, what's been my favourite series to cover on the channel thus far? Not necessarily a marathon, but just any series I've talked about. So, my favourite thing to cover on the channel, that's kind of difficult to be honest, because I like a lot of the things that I've covered on my channel. If we're talking just about liking the games specifically, then I guess maybe, like off the top of my head, the Spyro games are obviously some of my favourites. Well, the original trilogy are anyway. There's also the Super Monkey Ball series, which I really like, obviously. I've done a lot of videos on that. I don't know, like PT. Yeah, there's, I mean, a lot of the stuff I cover on the channel is stuff that I like, because otherwise I probably wouldn't want to talk about it so much. But if we're talking about what's been my favourite thing to cover in terms of, like, actually making the videos, then maybe it would probably have to be the Hugo games, because I think that that's where a lot of my audience came from, and that's kind of where my channel got its start. I think a lot of my audience kind of came from those videos, at least to begin with. So yeah, I'll always be really proud of those videos, and they were really, really fun to make as well. Obviously, I don't actually like pretty much any of the Hugo games, so I'm coming at it from the angle of that I enjoyed making those videos rather than enjoying the game itself, if you know what I mean. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I know I was a bit vague in terms of like what's been my favourite game out of the ones that I've covered, but off the top of my head, I can't really think of one specifically. Like I say, Spyro, Super Monkey Ball and PT. There's probably a lot of others as well though, like Crash Team Racing is another one that I really like. But yeah, the Hugo series of videos were probably the ones that I'm the happiest with, just because of the response that they got, I suppose. The next question comes from Ian TEB, or maybe it's pronounced Ian Teb, I don't know. Again, I apologise if I'm mispronouncing any of these. But the question is, what are your biggest inspirations for YouTube, if any, that is? My biggest inspirations for YouTube... I think somebody else actually asks this question later on, but as far as like inspirations that I take from other channels, the main ones that spring to mind immediately are NitroRad, Scott the Woz, and to a lesser extent Cadicarus and AntDude. They're like the big YouTubers that I really look up to. But there's probably a lot of other ones as well. I mean, like Stop Skeletons from Fighting. They're another like quite big channel, but they're not, I don't think they're as big as the others that I just mentioned. But yeah, all of those channels I really, really look up to, and they're definite inspirations. Another one that's massive, that I can't not mention as well, is Cinemassacre, obviously the angry video game nerd. Who hasn't he inspired, really? Like, I think every single, like, game review channel in some way is inspired by Cinemassacre. And yeah, still to this day, they're making, like, top quality content as well. It's pretty impressive. The next question is from JP Ward 01, who says, are there any game franchises that I've been meaning to get into, but haven't as of yet? And, yeah, there's one in particular that's at the forefront of my mind at the moment, and that is the Silent Hill series. I really do want to review the Silent Hill series at some point, and it might happen really soon, depending on which game series wins the vote that's happening at the moment. But yeah, I haven't actually played a lot of the Silent Hill games. Obviously the ones that I'm particularly interested in are the main four that came out on the PS1 and PS2. I've only really played a little bit of Silent Hill 2, so I am very, very interested in diving deep into that series and seeing what it's all about, because obviously it's one of the main horror franchises, and it's like psychological horror as well, which I'm really into. So, to be honest, I don't know why I've not played a lot of them, but yeah, that's definitely the main series that I'm really wanting to get invested in at the moment. Another series that I've been trying to get into recently is the Pikmin series. I actually very recently finished playing the first Pikmin on the GameCube, and I absolutely loved it. I don't know why nobody has told me that the Pikmin games are so good before. But yeah, I'm really wanting to get my hands on Pikmin 2 now. It's a little bit expensive, so I don't think I'm going to get it anytime soon. But yeah, I am wanting to pick that up. It's just with the PS5 coming out and all of the games that I need to get for that, it's going to be an expensive month, so I don't think there's any room for Pikmin 2. Obviously, Pikmin 3 has just come out on the Switch as well, so yeah, I'll probably get my hands on that at some point as well. The next question is from Leo Tashi, who says, what video was the most fun to make, and which one am I the most proud of? They mentioned that my PT review was very enjoyable to watch as well. Thanks for saying that. And that's a nice segue as well, because I think one of the videos that I'm the most proud of is actually that PT review. I've not, like, I don't ever, like, re-watch my videos, so I'm kind of just going from memory of what I was thinking about them at the time when I was, like, watching them before I uploaded it to make sure they were okay. So yeah, I do remember the PT video being particularly good. I think just because I really wanted to, like, showcase how, like, creepy the game is, so I kind of did a mix of a review and, like, a playthrough of it. It was kind of like a weirdly structured video, but I think it worked really well for a short game like that. And, yeah, I think I, like, showcased some things about the game that are a little bit more, like, not a lot of people would have known about, because obviously I've been reading about loads of the theories of it and stuff. So yeah, I think that video came together really well. Other than that, I'm obviously very proud of the Hugo series that I did. Nobody has covered the Hugo series as extensively as I have on my channel. I've done like 13 videos about all of the Hugo games on PlayStation systems, and yeah, nobody else has done that. So that's one thing that I'm pretty proud of. Other video. Oh, I'll tackle the other part of the question as well, which was what videos were the most fun to make. Now, the most fun to make videos, I'm actually thinking now the ones that spring to mind immediately are the Ape Escape videos that I've done. My reviews of Ape Escape 2 and Ape Escape 3. Just because it's kind of like a running gag where I am like trying to capture a monkey and then the monkey ends up catching me, and like it goes on and on like that. And I think that took a lot of effort to do, in particular with the first video in that series that I did, which was Ape Escape 2. I was doing it all on my own, so I had to like sort of like make a puppet out of this monkey and like tie him up using like fishing lines to make him stand up on his own and stuff. So that was quite a challenging thing to do at the time, and yeah, I was really happy with the result, so I think that was probably the most fun one to make. The next question is from Longplay Express, who says, they're curious on what work I do outside of YouTube. Do I enjoy my job, or is it mainly to keep a roof on my head? Also, does it make it difficult to maintain the channel, or do I still get plenty of time to play, record and edit, etc.? The work I do outside of YouTube, I'm going to be really non-specific here, because it's sort of like a thing in my job where I'm not supposed to talk about it online, which is a bit weird, considering that it's not like an important job or anything. But yeah, I'll just say that I work in the food industry, which is extremely vague, I know, but yeah, it definitely is just a job to keep a roof over my head. And to be honest, it's not something that I see myself doing for like forever by any means. But yeah, it's working for now. When I moved house like a year ago, or just under a year ago, I basically needed to get a new job. So I just applied to like a few places, and just basically took the first job that was offered to me. But yeah, I wouldn't say that I hate it or anything by any means. I actually do quite enjoy it at times, but it's very repetitive, and it's obviously not really what I want to be doing. But at the end of the day, I'm just happy to actually have a job, because obviously a lot of people this year have been losing their jobs. So yeah, my heart goes out to those people, because that must be extremely tough. In terms of it taking away time from making these videos and maintaining the channel, my job is part-time, but it's sort of like a part-time job where it gets in the way quite a lot, because I'm working quite a lot of days in the week, but I might only be actually at work for like 4 or 5 hours sometimes. But if I start work at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it kind of just feels like I can't do anything before 1 o'clock, because I'm just constantly thinking like, oh, I'm going to need to go to work soon. So it gets in the way, sort of, I guess psychologically gets in the way. But because I get like a few days off a week, it doesn't get in the way too much. But it would be nice to be able to just focus entirely on doing YouTube content. And that is something that I would like to do. I'm not just going to lie and say like I've never thought about that or anything. Obviously with me hitting 1,000 subscribers, I've been able to put adverts on the channel, which I've not been excessive about, because it kind of annoys me when I'm watching videos and there's like just loads of adverts. I get that people have to make a living by doing that, but for my channel at the moment, I've just put adverts at the beginning of my videos and not like halfway through it or anything. And yeah, it's been exciting sort of like being at the start of my journey of making money on YouTube. But yeah, it's going to take a very long time for that to pick up to such an extent where I can think about leaving my job. I know that there's stuff that I could potentially do, like Patreon and stuff, but I just think that my channel isn't quite in the right place to start doing that yet. I sort of feel like my channel needs to grow a little bit more before I can start even thinking about that sort of thing. And also I wouldn't really want to start doing anything like Patreon or merch or anything while we're in the middle of a pandemic, because I wouldn't really feel comfortable with people spending money on that when they probably need that money for other stuff. I know that was rambly, that wasn't even a part of the question, but yeah, I thought I would address that because it's something that I've been kind of wanting to talk about for a while, and I guess that was a good time to do it. The next question is from Ninja Star Compass, who is another co-host of the Super Monkey Ball podcast that I mentioned earlier, that I'll link in the description below, and he asks, what is a pixel pursuit? And a pixel pursuit is quite plainly the pursuit of pixels. The next question is from Omri Madav, who says, what is my least favourite video game review that I've made on my channel, and do I have any plans on revisiting old reviewed games that I'm not fond of? This can include videos that I've deleted over the years if I have any. To answer that last bit first of all, the only videos that I've ever deleted in my entire channel's history is a Let's Play that I did right at the start of my channel. Maybe just after I did my first couple of reviews, I started a Let's Play up, and it was completing Dark Souls 1 at level 1, so I did the whole game without leveling up. Which I'm actually pretty proud of that I did that. It was really difficult, and yeah, it was a really good challenge. But yeah, I deleted that Let's Play just because it was sort of getting to the point where my channel was beginning to look like a Dark Souls channel, and it was sort of like taking the attention away from the reviews that I was doing, that was obviously the main content on my channel, and just making it look a little bit cluttered. So yeah, that's kind of the reason that I deleted those. That, and at the time, those videos weren't getting many views at all in comparison to my reviews. So it's kind of obvious what direction the channel should go in based on that. So yeah, they're the only videos that I've ever deleted. I've never deleted any reviews or any like main videos. The thought has actually crossed my mind before that I could do a second channel where I upload all of my streams and upload that Dark Souls Let's Play as well, but I don't really think that my main channel is in a position to warrant really having a second channel for that type of thing just yet. I feel like your channel needs to be at like a certain popularity level before that's really warranted. But maybe in the future I'll do a second channel where I'll upload all of that sort of stuff, who knows. Anyway, to answer the actual question now, it was which video am I the least fond of out of my entire channel's history? Now, to be honest, I'm pretty happy with all of the videos that I put on my channel, and I think if there was ever a video that I made that I wasn't happy with at all, I probably just wouldn't upload it. That's never happened. I've never worked on a video and just thought that it was rubbish and deleted it. I've always managed to like tweak it or like add stuff in to make it like at least a little bit entertaining. So yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer this one, because I don't think that there's a video on my channel that I'm not at least like partially happy with. Obviously a lot of the earlier videos on my channel are a little bit like sort of cringy for me to watch personally, just because I do think I've improved quite a lot over the course of creating the channel. So to go back and watch the earlier videos where I don't think my presentation is quite as good, that puts me off quite a lot. But even then, I think that my older videos still had quite good editing and quite good scripts. So yeah, I don't really think that there's a video on my channel that I'm not happy with. As far as revisiting old reviews goes, The only one where I'm kind of thinking that I want to revisit it at some point is my review of Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. And the reason that I think that revisiting that would be more warranted than any other videos on my channel is because that game changed quite a lot throughout its life cycle. It had a lot of new content added to it that I obviously didn't talk about in my initial review because that content wasn't there. So maybe if I ever get around to doing some sort of Crash Bandicoot marathon, I'll do like a re-review of that. But yeah, I think that's the only one. I guess the other one that comes to mind now that I think about it is Super Monkey Ball Deluxe. That video actually did quite well in terms of views, and it's kind of annoying because at the time I only I thought that the PS2 and Xbox versions were exactly the same, but it turns out that the Xbox version is better in like every single way, like having better controls, a better frame rate, better loading times, better graphics. So yeah, I reviewed the PS2 version, and I kind of wish that I would have known about the Xbox version, so I could have talked about that one instead. Because a lot of what I say in the video talking about the PS2 version are actually problems with that particular port and not with the game itself. So yeah, maybe that's another one that I might revisit in some form in the future. I don't think I would ever do a full-on like review of the Xbox version, just because I kind of covered most of it in the PS2 video anyway. But yeah, that is another one that's like a potential for like I might do like a smaller video on that at some point. I'm very aware that I'm giving like really long-winded answers to some of these questions. I hope that that's okay. I go off on tangents when I start talking about this sort of thing. But anyway, the next question is from Tom Lambert, who says, why haven't I got Toy Story 2 in my PS1 collection, and have I played it in the past? Now, technically, I do have Toy Story 2 in my collection, but I only have the disc, because I actually traded my copy of Ape Escape 3 for a copy of Toy Story 2 with a good friend of mine, and yeah, their copy of Toy Story 2 was the disc only. So I kind of feel like I got a little bit gypped on that actually, because my copy of Ape Escape 3 was complete with the manual and box and everything. I have repurchased Ape Escape 3 now, so it doesn't really matter. But I've never got around to repurchasing Toy Story 2, so I've got it with the manual and box. As far as playing it in the past, it's one of those games that I played a lot as a kid, but then I sold it, and then I wanted to play it again, so that's why I did the trade with my friend. But yeah, I've played it a lot. It's really good, and it is a game that I want to cover on the channel at some point, because I do remember it being really, really good. So yeah, eventually I'm definitely going to repurchase that to have the case. The reason that I don't consider that it's in my game collection is literally just the fact that I don't have the box for it, so it doesn't really feel like it's a proper part of my collection. And I know it's probably silly like rebuying it just because I don't have the box, but just having the disc feels a little bit lame. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. The next question is from Rory Hunt, who says, what is my favourite game of all time? Now, this one, I can't answer this in a straightforward way, because to say that I've got like one favourite game that's like my favourite above every other, it's just kind of impossible, because it depends on what mood I'm in. So some of my favourite games of all time are Metal Gear Solid 3, the Inside game that was made by Playdead. I also really like Bloodborne. What else? I really like Rayman 1, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. I would probably go as far as to say that PT is one of my favourite games ever made. Spyro 2 is another one. I would probably say Sly 2 is one of my favourites as well. Yeah, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot of games that I would consider like among my favourite games ever made. But yeah, that's just a few. There's probably some that I am forgetting about that are really obvious. But yeah, I think there's some of my favourites off the top of my head anyway. The next question is from Sonic Tekano, who says, how long have I been making videos? They're asking this since I could have an older channel or old private videos. I don't have any old private videos on this channel. As I said, the only videos I've deleted are the Dark Souls Let's Play videos. I do have an older channel. In fact, I've probably got quite a few older channels, but none of them really are to do with games. Most of the older channels are to do with filmmaking. Because back in secondary school, I did media production as a GCSE, and then I went on to do media production at college and university as well. So every time I made a film, I would upload it to YouTube, and some of them have actually got quite a lot of views just because they've been online for so long. A lot of them aren't very good because it was just when I was a kid and I was messing about. But I guess some of the more recent videos that I made at like university, I think are actually like okay. But yeah, I think that's probably why I was able to make content to the level I was doing it at when I first started this channel, because I already kind of had that background with like filmmaking and editing. But yeah, I still wasn't very good in front of the camera, so it didn't really help with that. But hey, I'm getting a little bit better at being in front of the camera, so at least I'm improving. But yeah, if you did want to watch any of my old content that I did, like all the way back in like school and college and university and that sort of stuff, I suppose I will put a link to one of my old channels in the description. But don't go into it expecting anything too high quality because, yeah, some of the stuff that I did when I was like a lot younger, I was filming on like a potato and editing on a potato, and it's just a potato overall. So yeah, just don't go into it expecting Hollywood quality, obviously. Also, to add to that, it's also probably not going to be very interesting because it's nothing to do with video games, and it's just like short films that like I did with my friends. So yeah, it's probably not really worth checking out unless you're just super interested in my old YouTube history, I suppose. But anyway, to move on from that, the Mega Man Cave asks, are there any channels that I drew heavy inspiration from, and if so, what are they? So this is the question that I actually answered earlier. So just to reiterate, the main channels that I look up to that are like big are Stop Skeletons from Fighting, Nitro Rad, Ant Dude, Scott the Woz, and Cad Icarus, I suppose, and Cinemassacre. I don't know why I keep forgetting about Cinemassacre, considering that they're probably like, well, I would probably say that they're my third favourite channel, although I have to admit more recently I've not been watching them as much more recently. I'm not quite sure why that is, but yeah, I've definitely been watching some other YouTube channels a lot more than them. If I was to say one channel that I think is my main inspiration overall, it would definitely be Nitro Rad. I just think that his content is just such high quality, and his scripts are just so good, his presentation is so good. He talks about games that are like really interesting and obscure as well sometimes, as well as covering the more mainstream stuff as well on top of that. So yeah, I think in that way I draw a lot of inspiration because I'm into a lot of the same games that he is. So yeah, I guess if there's one inspiration, it would be Nitro Rad. The next question is from the Rearview Mirror, who says, who is the commenter that has stood out to me the most, or if there's multiple, which commenters have stood out to me the most? So this is a difficult one. But I guess the way that I'll answer this is I'll just say I'm really happy when anybody ever comments on my videos, regardless of if they're new or if they're like a returning commenter or subscriber. I really do appreciate any comments. And I think in fact, I would say that one of the things that I like most about creating this type of content on YouTube is the interaction in the comments. Even if people like disagree with what I'm saying, it's normally a really good conversation that we have about the game and a good back and forth as to what like the different like opinions are. And I think that that's really interesting. So yeah, I'm always grateful when anybody comments. But it is always that little bit extra nice when I see people commenting on my videos, like sort of again and again. So the regular commenters I really do appreciate, because obviously when you first start YouTube, it's difficult to like start to build up an audience of like regular people that are watching your content for you and not just watching your content as like a one-off video that they found. I feel like getting over that first hurdle of even gaining the smallest regular audience is so like difficult to begin with. And for me to be in a situation where I've actually gotten over that hurdle to an extent, and I know that I'm not the biggest channel out there, obviously, but even to have the smallest community that we do have here, and the smallest amount of regular commenters that I see on a regular basis, it does honestly mean a lot, and it is something that really does spur me on to keep making videos to the highest quality that I can, and just continuously improve myself as well, because it almost becomes a situation where the journey that I'm going on isn't just my journey anymore, and it's a journey that I'm sharing with you, the viewers. And I think that that is actually like a really special thing, and it's something that a lot of YouTubers don't talk about, and I feel like a lot of YouTubers that are bigger could potentially have lost sort of like lost that connection with the viewers a little bit, just because the amount of viewers they get is so high. So there's almost like a beauty in being a smaller channel in that way. But yeah, I hope if the channel ever does get to a stage where we're like getting reasonably big, something that I always want to do is always have that connection with my viewers. Just because I do feel like that's really important, and yeah, I hope that wasn't too soppy. And I know I haven't directly answered the question here, like I've not said like a particular commenter, but that's just because it's almost like a situation where every commenter stands out to me. Like I say, especially those that like come back again and again. So the last question that I've got at the moment anyway is from Rory Hunt again, who's got a second question, who asks, what component cables do I use to play retro games on a HD TV? The component cables that I use are just third-party ones. I just literally went on Amazon and I just looked for the highest reviewed component cables for the particular system I was looking at, and I just got the one with the highest rating, basically. If you want specifics, I will look through my Amazon like order history and I'll link them down below. Because the ones that I've been using do seem to be really good. Like there's no like static images or like blurriness to it or anything. But what I will say is that the way that I have got my TV set up and the way that I've got all of my consoles plugged in is pretty complicated. And it's something that I imagine a lot of people just wouldn't have the patience to set up for themselves. But basically, just to go through it really fast here, so let's use the PS2 as an example of a console that uses a component cable, right? So the PS2 is plugged into a component switch box. That switch box then outputs via another component cable into a HD upscaler called the RetroTink 2X, then that basically turns that component cable going from the switch box into a HDMI cable. Then that HDMI cable goes into a HDMI splitter. Then from that, the output from that HDMI splitter goes into another HDMI splitter, which then splits that signal to my TV and to my capture setup. So basically, the way that I've got it set up is that every single console, the video is outputted through a single HDMI cable. So I'm never having to mess around with any wires behind my TV or anything like that. And there's only actually one HDMI cable plugged into my TV, but every single console is using that one HDMI cable, if that makes sense. So yeah, and that's how I capture all of my videos as well, because again, it's all just going through one HDMI cable effectively. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. That probably was a bit of a complicated answer, but yeah. I did actually do a video a long time ago where I talked about my game capture setup, but it's probably dated a little bit now because it was before I was using component cables and it was before I had the RetroTink. But if you are interested in the sort of kind of setup that I use, you could go back and watch that video. I'll link it below. I also could make an updated video where I talk about the way that all of my consoles are plugged in now, because like I say, that video is kind of outdated and I've got a lot better quality stuff now. So let me know if that's something that you'd be interested in seeing, because I could probably quite easily make that video. And in terms of all of the questions that I've currently got as I'm recording this, I've answered them all. That was a lot of questions to go through, and this video is probably quite long at this point. But if there's any other questions that I get after finishing this filmed section, I will answer them just in a voiceover bit, which will begin now. So here we have a question from Crashistry that is, what is the worst thing about the Hugo series? I think the worst thing about the Hugo series in general is that it just didn't really have much consistency. There was the first PS1 games that were both mini-game compilations, then it became a 3D platformer that was kind of styled in the same way as Crash Bandicoot, the sort of corridor style. But then in the PS2 era, it kind of just went all over the place. And I feel like had the series had a little bit more of a consistent brand and a consistent gameplay style, it might have become better over time just because the developers would have had more practice in one particular style, rather than changing the genre each and every game. So yeah, as the overall series, I do think that that's probably the worst thing about it, and that's probably where the series went so wrong, to be honest, as well. Obviously, there's individual things about each and every game that are really bad, but yeah, because the series as a whole is so varied, it's kind of difficult to determine what the single worst thing about the entire series is, because every single game is so drastically different that they all have flaws in so many different areas. So yeah, that lack of consistency is definitely the worst thing about the series. Next up, we have a question from Do You Nerd, which is, what's been one of the hardest things to do in content creation, and what's been the best way for you to get around that? So with this, I think the hardest thing to do in terms of actually creating content is get a degree of consistency while maintaining a high production value across all of your content. I think that getting that consistency is something that just happens with time, and just after you experiment a little bit, trying out different styles of video. And I would say that I've got into a pretty good routine with that. I'm mostly able to do weekly uploads now, and the way that I manage to do that is by working on 2 videos at the same time, with one being a more informal video and the other being a more heavily scripted review. So that way I can take my time on the review and upload it when it's ready, but then I've got the more informal video to fall back on, so that the content is kept more regular. Another thing though is getting the motivation to actually become consistent. So at the beginning of your YouTube journey, I think it's really difficult to become motivated, because it's unlikely that you'll have that big of an audience, and it's unlikely that you'll be getting that many comments. So you've really got to have a lot of self-motivation to keep it going and get past that point. So I think that's another really difficult hurdle that you have to get over early on. And the best way to get around that, I mean, really there's only one way to get around that, and it's like I say, it's just you've got to be really self-motivated. So yeah, I think that they're the 2 hardest things for me personally with content creation. Yeah, just the beginning of the YouTube journey, needing a lot of motivation to actually put videos out, knowing full well that they're probably not going to get that many views, and also just maintaining a regular schedule for videos. I think they're quite difficult things to accomplish when you also have so many other things going on in your life, like having to go to work and just the general day-to-day stuff. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to make YouTube videos, so managing to like work out a schedule where you can do that on a regular basis, that's definitely the most difficult thing to overcome. And finally, we have a question from Jackster101, who says, when you first started YouTube, did you think you'd ever hit 1,000 subs? I mean, the short answer to this question is basically no, I didn't. My YouTube channel got off to a really slow start. So for the first like kind of 3 years of doing it, I didn't really build up that many subscribers, and I wasn't building them up very quickly either. But I think that mostly is my fault, because I wasn't ever particularly good at consistently uploading on like a set schedule. But for the past year or so, I would say that I've been putting a lot more effort into more consistently uploading, and I think that that has made a real significant difference to the growth of the channel. Like I think I said in my 1,000 subscriber update video, that at the beginning of the year we had only just hit just over 500 subscribers, and now about 10 months later we've doubled that amount. So really getting that consistency down is definitely important. But yeah, basically to answer the question, no, I really didn't think that we was going to hit 1,000 subscribers to begin with. Yeah, and it's just amazing that we've finally hit that massive milestone, because, I don't know, just like, when I first started the YouTube channel, it seemed like such an impossible amount of subscribers to reach, and yet, here we are, and we've finally hit it, which is amazing. And now we're back to the filmed version of me from the past. That's going to look a bit weird if I didn't get any questions after I finished filming, so I kind of hope I did, otherwise this is going to look really weird. But now I've kind of made it awkward anyway by saying that, and anyway, the point is, I've answered all of the questions. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. It's the first Q&A video that I've ever done, and like I said at the very start of the video, the response and the amount of questions that I got given literally blew me away. I was expecting to get maybe like 3 questions, and I ended up getting like, what, like, I don't know, like over 15. I think it was something like 17 questions. So yeah, literally, thank you to anybody that asked anything. And thank you to anybody that voted for the upcoming series marathon that I'll be doing as well. And I guess what I'll do at this point is I'll put it up on the screen now, which game series actually won that vote. Because I obviously can't keep the vote going forever. So I guess the easiest way of summing that up will be to do it now. So yeah, congratulations to whatever game won the vote. I'm filming this in the past, so I don't even know which game series it is myself at this point. At the moment, Silent Hill has quite a significant lead, so I'm gonna assume that Silent Hill won. If it did, I'm pretty happy about that because, as I said earlier in the video, Silent Hill is one of the game series that I've been wanting to get into for quite a while now, so this is a good reason to do that. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe to see more stuff like this coming soon, and yeah, I'm just going to say thank you one more time. Thanks for voting, thanks for commenting, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!